Welcome, welcome to the continuation of our GCE revision, where we continue solving our 2023 GCE paper. So here now we are continuing from question 7 up to 10. So in this video we are going to solve from 7 up to 10. So before I start, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share if the video was helpful to you. Then if you also want online tuitions, we also offer online tuitions. Don't forget to inbox the line on the screen. So to begin, our first question is saying, given that matrix P is equals to 4, 2, -1, 0, 0, 3, and matrix Q is 1, 2, 3. The first thing is find the transpose. So how can you find the transpose of a matrix? So in short, whenever they are telling you to find the transpose, they are asking you to change the rows so that they become the columns, and the columns so that they become what? The rows. So what are the rows and what are the columns? So the columns are this line, which lines what? Vertical. So when we say vertical, we are meaning up and to down. So these lines are known as columns. Then these lines are known as rows. Yeah. So this is where now we change the row to become what? A column. So how can a row become a column? So this entire row will become what? A column. So you say P transpose is equals to, so we have 4, -1, 0. Again, this row will become what? A column. So we have 2, 0, 3. Once you do like this, meaning you have changed the rows, they have become columns, which means you have gotten your 1 mark. Then part B is saying find matrix PQ. So how can you find PQ? So whenever they ask you to find PQ, they are telling you to multiply this matrix with this matrix. Remember the laws for multiplication of matrix. We say that the laws must be equal to the column. So the first thing you do is write the order of matrix. What is the order of this matrix? This matrix is a 2 by 3 matrix. Then this matrix is a 1 by, it's a 3 by 1 matrix. It has 3 rows and 1 column. Then this one has 2 rows and 1 column. So since the column and rows have matched, meaning we can multiply this what? Matrix. So now you say, how do you multiply? So you multiply the entire row with this entire column. Then you add the what? The answers. So what do I mean? So you say 4 times 1, we have 4, plus -1 times 2, we have -2, 0 times 3, we have 0. Then again you come to the second row. You say 2 times 1, we have 2, plus 0 times 2, we have 0, plus 3 times 3, we have 9. Then our final answer when you add will be 4 positive times negative. It's negative. So we have 4 minus 2. Then 2 plus 0 is 2 plus 9 it's 11. Then here we have what is 4 minus 2. So 4 minus 2 is 2, and we have 11 as our final answer. So remember, when you look at our order of matrix, we said we remained with 2 by 1. So meaning our final answer will be a 2 by 1 matrix. So this is how you can solve a matrix question if you see it in paper 1. This will guarantee you a 3 marks. Moving on to our question 8. So our question 8 is on arithmetic progression. So the question is saying an arithmetic progression is given as 1, 7, 13. Find the 8th term. B. Find the sum of the 15th term. So how can you find the 80th term? So whenever you are solving questions on arithmetic progression, you need to understand, the first thing you need to understand is the formula. How does the formula work? So the formula for arithmetic progression is given by a plus n minus 1 times d. So what does this letter z mean? So a is our first term, then n is the nth term. So what do you mean when you say the nth term? So this is just the position where the number we are looking for is at. So for example, 1, it is at the first position, then 7, it is at second position, then 13 is at third position, just like that. So if 13 is at third position, then our n will be 3. So you need to understand like that. Then D is our famous common difference. So just like the name states, common difference, we find this common difference by subtracting the third term minus the second term, or the second term minus the first term. So now that you have understood the formula, we can try to solve our first question. So our first question is asking us to calculate the 80th term. So since we are calculating the 80th term, meaning our n is equals to 8 because it is at position 8. So you say our ATN is equals to A plus n minus 1 d. Then we said our n is 8. What is our first term? Our first term is 1 plus our n is 8 minus 1. What is our d? So d, I told you, you can either subtract the third minus the second, or the second minus the first. So in our case, we'll try to subtract what? The first minus the second minus the first, which is our common difference is equals to 7 minus 1, which is 6. So therefore our d will be 6. Then you say 1 plus. Remember what I told you, whenever you see brackets and different signs, whatever should come into your mind is what? Body mass. So we are going to begin with whatever is inside the bracket. So we are going to say 8 minus 1 is what? 7. Then we have 6. Then according to body mass, before addition, we have to multiply. So we are going to say 7 times 6, which is 7 times 6, we have, sure, 7 times 6, we have 42. So now we say here 1 plus 40 what? 42. Because 6 times 6 is what? 36 plus 6, we have 36, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. So we have 42. Then here you add 1 plus 42 is what? 43 as our 80 term. So meaning at our 80th term, we have 43. Now moving on to our B part. So our B part is requiring us to do what? To calculate now the sum. So the sum of the 15th term. So again, I'm telling you the formula for the sum of the AP, you need to know it, you need to remember it, you need to understand it, because they won't give you in your paper 1 when you are writing. So you say the sum is equals to n divided by 2, 2a plus n minus 1, then we have d. So what can help you to remember this formula is when you compare it with the normal formula for the AP, you know that this formula will just have an addition of 2 and n over 2. That's the only thing which they have added to the sum. So if you understand first the normal formula, it will be easy for you to understand the second formula. So of course I won't mention what the terms means. I've already told you A is the first term, N is the position of the term we are calculating for, D is the common difference, and the S here stands for the sum. So now you say the sum of, how many terms are we calculating for? 15. So we say the sum of 15th term is equals to N is what? 15 divided by 2. Then the next thing is 2. So we have 2. What is the first term? The first term is 1. Then plus, what is our n? 15 minus 1. What is our common difference? 6. Yeah. So here again. So since this you cannot do what? You can't simplify. It will give you points. So you just have to take it the way it is, 15 divided by 2. Then you multiply 2 times 1, we have 2, plus 15 minus 1, we have 14, times what? 6. Yeah. So again here, 14 times 6 is what? So here you don't have a calculator, you have to use your head. So you say 14 times 6. 6 times 4, we have 24. 4 carry 2. Then you have 6 times 1, 6 plus 2, we have 8. So meaning 6 times 14, we are having what? 84. So here you have 2 plus 84, which is 15 divided by 2. Then 2 plus 84. So 2 plus 84, we have what? 86. So we have 15 divided by 2 times 86. Yeah. Remember, 2 can go into 86. So you say 2 into 2, 1. 2 into 86, we have 43. Then now, for the final answer, you just multiply 15 times 43. So 15 times 43, what are we getting? 3 times 5, 15, 5 carry 1. 3 times 1, 3 plus 1, 45. 4 times 5, 20, 0 carry 2. 4 times 1, 4 plus 2, 6. So we are getting 5, 4, 6. So the sum of the 15 terms is giving us 645, meaning you have gotten your 2 marks. So this is how you can solve without a calculator. Just have to do what? Just have to be simplifying the equation. Yeah. So moving on to our next question, which we'll solve in under 6 minutes, I think. Yeah, because the time is almost up. So question 9 is saying, in a bag there are 4 marbles, 3 red marbles, and 2 white marbles. What is the probability of picking a random marble? So the probability, the formula for probability is that the probability of the outcome divided by the total outcomes. So meaning if we have a probability, if we have 4 blue marbles, 3 red marbles, and 2 white marbles, meaning the total outcome is the addition of 4 plus 3 plus 2, which will give us what? If we add 4 plus 3, we have 4 plus 6. We have 7 plus 2, we have 9. Then what is the probability of picking red? So what is the outcome? So we have 3 red marbles, so you say 3. Then here you just simplify. 3 into 3, 1. 3 into 9, 3. You have solved the probability. So the probability is one of the easiest questions you come across in paper 1. Then our next question is requiring us to solve the equation. So how can we solve the equation? Yeah. So our part B is requiring us to solve the equation. What was it? Yeah. So how can we solve this equation?